Well, Deb doesn't want to give away anything.
You're busy. We get it.
All right. So we try to do this every year after year end. So I'm just going to say this like up front. Year end giving, that model doesn't work anymore. So our whole budget year is set on a model that doesn't work anymore. And part of why it doesn't work anymore is because for our demographic, financial income demographic, there's not benefit for year end giving. Like that used to be a thing, and churches kind of like adjusted how we would plan, blah, blah, blah. We've watched it over the last couple years. This year, it is painfully obvious that that is something of the past. So just kind of giving you like the backdrop of everything that you're going to hear today. So my goal is just to kind of identify some of our observations, to give you a plan for the next quarter of some adjustments that we're going to make as a result of that. And then I think the last part, there might be a little bit of dreaming space in there. I'm not sure. And if not, I probably will, just because I can't do this without that, or else I'll be really sad. So, all right. So looking at this year, so reviewing the donor trends, reviewing our January finances, reviewing year-to-date performance, and we're going to discuss some of the options. All right. So donor trends this year, we had a high of 176 different donors in 2025, which is up from 126 in 2022, 2023, which had been the high. 58 new donors in both 2024 and 2025. That's pretty awesome. So like you should clap for that. One is it marks that we're a community that has new life in it. That's also one of the problems, is that we are a community that has old life that has left. So when we start to look at our donor breakdowns, the people that are coming here are who we exist for. They don't have the same income as people who used to be here. So like we're reaching the right people and they're rowing with us, but it looks different financially. Giving, so total income declined 9% from 2024 to 2025, despite that growth. So like the good growth, but even despite that. Total giving frequency has decreased from 14 to 15 gifts per donor annually to 10 or less. So there's a bit more of I can give this, and maybe it's quarterly, or maybe it's because last year we had very specific projects that we asked for. So like some of that has to be considered in it as well. But our December giving dropped to 10% of our annual income. Mm-hmm. And shocking. Top 20% of our donors provide 66% of our total giving, which is about what you expect for a nonprofit. But so what does this mean? Our participation is growing, but consistency in giving is declining. So the number of is growing, but their consistency has shifted. And so for us, long-term stability depends on us figuring out how to help more giving units, which is a horrible phrase, to set up recurring gifts that are sustainable, so that we can actually budget a year. So like chunks, although it's like, hey, we'll take your chunks, like that's amazing, aren't as helpful as us if we had 30 more units, giving units, say, well, I'm going to give X amount every month. And then we're like, okay, we can budget now. So some of our next step with that are we're looking to create an initiative. I always say it's like an NPR plan. And Manya is always like, please do not make it an NPR plan.
I will make tote bags.
Oh, I love this. For those of you online, Julia said she was going to make tote bags. But the idea is, can you go back one slide? The idea behind it is, we're hoping to have 10 more donors sign up this month that are able to give at $20 a month, and it's going to help us towards this goal. And then maybe take a month off, and then in the next month say, we're looking for 10 donors that can sign on that can give us $50 a month. Like, we're looking at very low, I'm saying like entry level giving, but that it's consistent and reoccurring. And we haven't done that like ever. We've done capital campaigns. We had Epicenter back in the day. We had Faithful Presence. We've tried specific giving towards projects. We've never done something where we're like, hey, we're all here and we like that we're here. Like, that's the part of the NPR that I love. NPR is like, hey, if you're listening to this right now, you listen to us every day and you like that we exist. So can you translate that into a dollar figure? And I feel like we're unique. And I feel like what we do is unique. And I feel like the people who are here would say, we want this to exist. And maybe that is a $5 a month commitment that would be awesome. So that's part of the plan going forward. I think Jenna put in some numbers in there. If 40 households increase giving by $25 a month, that's actually $12,000 annually. If 20 households gave $100 a month, that's $24,000 annually. Like, it's pretty significant. And I think if we can present it in this way, then they're like, oh, I can give $20 a month, or I can give $40 a month. So that's the goal. So in January, our bank accounts, we have a total available of $294,201. We had an emergency reserve goal of $150,000 that currently is sitting at $135,000. Our January contributions deposited was $48,000. The goal for that month was $28,000. But the difference there was because there was lag from December. And Jerry, you can tell me if I say something that you're like, oh, I don't know that that's correct. So, but 10 new donors in January, like, that's awesome. January building income was a little bit over what we had budgeted, but also when we moved to expenses, the January expenses were a little bit over as well. So year to date, this is where it gets kind of interesting. The contributions. So when we say contributions, that's not building use. That's not any contracts that we hold. That's not the olive branch, because the olive branch is our ministry, if you don't know that.
And no directed.
Yep, and no directed donations. So when we're saying contributions, we're saying like this is through, and I don't want to say through Sunday because that's even too specific, but our contributions were $60,000 below what we budgeted. Our expenses were $11,000 over what we budgeted. So this is year to date. And we received a one-time $50,000 warming center gift, which makes the numbers on paper look better than they are. I mean, they're not bad, but we're trying to be super transparent. So we're approximately $50,000 below our projected net revenue from contributions. So our current trends indicate this, that our giving is below plan. We have an increased reliance on one-time gifts like these, and then we're like, oh, which is amazing. And we're like, thank you, Lord, for that. But that's not helpful for budgeting. And we have increased financial risk if this trend continues. Like if we do nothing about it, there will be risk. And risk for us is like we would have to change staffing. We would have to change benefits. We would have to change like programming. We might have to change venues. Like at some point, you're like, okay, is the church the building or is the church us? And can we all meet at a pub somewhere? You know, those are, I love those conversations. I love those conversations. But I also presented last year how much it would cost to have a facility to do the ministry that we do. And this is my much better arrangement for us to have this facility. So don't hear me, leaning in towards that. So addressing this now allows us for a proactive response rather than being reactive and getting caught later. So our option, we laid out some options. I say we, Jenna, Jerry, myself, we brought this to the elders. Then we got feedback there. So the first adjustment for this next quarter, and we're going to implement this, is we're going to freeze some of the ministry and operations lines that will give us about an estimated savings of around $23,000. And when we freeze them after the quarter, we come back and we say, how are we doing? And so some of the things that I think that are important in here, like a bunch of the stuff is things that are like, oh yeah, we wish we could do that, but we don't like do it anyway. Like, computer upgrades, food and beverage. Like we're like, well, no, we're do potlucks and we will provide nothing, like no hot dogs this year. Training and equipping, looking at what we would do in the next quarter related to like our missionaries, related to compassion partners. So we are moving money to missionaries from the first half of the year, but now we're saying, okay, let's wait and see what happens in this next quarter. One of the key things was also we had budgeted funds for the warming center this year, and then we got a gift, and then we got directed donations, and then we got like that. What we've done there is to say, okay, can we not use the budgeted dollars first? Can we use all the stuff that we didn't know was coming? And so that's an adjustment. And then an additional adjustment was to move our EIDL payments to be interest-only payments for this next quarter. And so that was the loan that everybody got during the pandemic. So we've been repaying that, and we've been trying to be aggressively paying it in this last year, a little more than a year. And so we're kind of like, okay, let's back off on that for this next quarter. Let's pay interest only, and then let's see. So that's option one. That happening while also us saying, hey, let's do a campaign, an NPR style thing, and let's try and get people on board with us. Option two, which would be something that would be done after we had tried option one, if nothing changes, is when we start to get into a little bit of hairy scenarios. But right now, we don't do health insurance cost sharing. And so that would be the next step where we're like, hey, if you get your health insurance through us, you have to start contributing X amount. And we don't have a lot of people that actually get health insurance through us, but we would be able to do that. Jenna was saying that could be an estimated savings of like $17,000, depending on in her brain what she thought was a reasonable cost sharing. So like that could move us towards $40,000 in savings. And the goal of that was to ask those who have health insurance to pay 25% of their premium, just to know kind of where that is. The last option for me, I call it the nuclear option. Like the last option would be to start removing benefits. And so right now, we have retirement plans, and the church matches up to a certain point. And so we could remove that. And I call it the nuclear option because I would say culturally, this has always fit under what we have called taking care of our people. And so I understand that I am one of those people. And I think things start to get a little bit like, oh, okay, this is different. So it is option 3, meaning for Jenna, it was like, I don't like this option, but we have to present that it is an option. What this doesn't account for is what we've been thinking about in regards to increasing revenue. So like all of this is like budget and expense. This year we were in conversations with the potential partnership that would have been in South Hall in the kitchen. And there was a group that we were thinking about partnering with, and they were going to do some remodeling. And then that space would have been very much just theirs, which would have changed the way that this space would look and function. That partnership is not going forward because they also are experiencing issues on their funding lines. So part of what we've been dreaming about is this is the least used room in the building. It gets used on Sundays. And if there's an Ash Wednesday, if there's, like this room is underused. And for weddings as a source of revenue, that can grow. There's space for us to grow in that. It'll be one of the initiatives that we'll be going after. But we're also dreaming about if there's another use for this space that could help us with revenue. And so I don't know if any of your Instagram feeds are filled with the candlelight concerts in Detroit. Like there are people who are utilizing spaces like this for concerts and arts, and we've not pursued that. And so just as we've been going through and dreaming about like what opportunities are in front of us, South Hall and the kitchen are always an opportunity, whether that would be groups that are using it as a prep kitchen, or whether somebody was wanting to come in and actually set something up down there. South Hall is used like every night of the week right now. So like those groups would have to be moved to somewhere else. So in our brain, this space would be made conducive for what happens every night of the week. And also Sunday mornings. So we're dreaming about that. There's no particular plans, but there's a lot of models out there of arts that are wanting spaces and they don't want to own them. And so we're thinking about that. We're thinking about how do we grow our weddings as a revenue source. We've already maximized like the building itself is used. And if you're not here like during the week, you may not know that. Like this is a hub. And I love when I get complaints that there's not parking. I love when I get complaints that there's too many things happening in a building for somebody, like it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing and it's a blessing. So with that being said, Abby has a microphone. If anyone had any questions or feedback that you wanted, I want to make sure that it's in the microphone so that it's on the YouTube. And I may not have an answer for you, but I'll document it and say, great question. And we'll go from there. Jerry's here. I'm here. Abby's here. Jill's here.
I just have a quick one. One of the things, as you know, I spent 8 years or so in this role. One of the things I always looked at was just how much we have in reserves, like days cash on hand and like general reserves, but also like in like long-term investment type reserves. Where do we stand on that? Because I didn't see that in there, so it'd be helpful to know. Did I miss it?
I think it was in the first. It's the what do we have in reserves right now? So we have
for that, I think the 135, that was for the
Emergency reserve goal is 150. Total available is 294,201. Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Yep.
So a
294,201.
little under 300,000.
Yep.
Okay, that's good to know.
have about 150,000 in like a 5-year savings account.
That answer your question?
Yes, that's much better than when that's much better than when I was running things. For the record,
Ben was an elder during some of the worst times. Some of you may remember that finance meeting.
so it doesn't feel it feels much different. I think
Yeah.
like I know what we're saying, we're trying to be proactive as is helpful,
Yeah.
but I also feel like at the time where there was a meeting in particular, some of you might remember, our current reserve was under $35,000. So
Yeah.
just for the record, it feels much better to be in a different that spot. So
Thank you.
So I know, Nate, we've used the building. We've hosted an art fair for the school that your kids have used to go to. Have we ever used the space for like a graduation ceremony or other school things? Because I used to go to a small Christian school where we didn't have a place for the kindergarten graduations or the high school graduations. We would use space at a fellow church. So I don't know if that's something.
Yeah, we
we've done.
haven't, but there's room to let people know that we're here.
Yeah.
I mean, we have an opportunity to market our space,
Mhm.
and we haven't.
Okay.
So, absolutely, Bethany.
I would also say that we use the space for people like within our community at a significantly reduced cost because we want it to be a blessing to each other as
Mhm.
well. And so I think that mix of like when are we supporting our church family and when are we supporting our community? Like I think that's a combination of those questions.
All right. I have like 5 things, but I'm going to go really quick. The first is, can you remind me what the fiscal year is? Is it January to December? Like,
No,
or
it's,
is it an overlap?
October.
Okay. On the one slide, it said in the next quarter, but it was February to August. Was that just a typo? Was it supposed to be February to April?
Yeah, February,
On
March,
option
April.
1.
Yeah, that would be.
Okay. I wanted to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure that we were talking about quarter, not like okay.
But the total number,
Yeah.
I think is reflective of freezing it all the way through. Yeah. So I think the quarter is the wrong thing.
Okay.
I think that the number associated with that is
Yeah.
February to August.
So the figure would be to freeze through the end of the fiscal
Yep.
year.
But we're going to review it after the next quarter.
Great. Okay.
Sorry for that.
No, that's helpful. I do wonder if you have to go to options 2 and 3, perhaps more of a hybrid. It's just food for thought that one is out of someone's pocket immediately and one would be future. So maybe that would be something to consider. Hopefully this is like a non-conversation in 3 months, right? But just that thought. I know from a preaching standpoint or a reminder standpoint, and I'm speaking for me specifically and anyone else who has the spirit to hear it, great, but like a reminder that giving is a discipline we're called to might be helpful for that more sustainable giving. I am much more likely to whip out my phone and give to a QR code cost, like a missionary, a bed, whatever. But it would be helpful for me to be reminded that like there is like that is a discipline that I personally could grow in. Like that is something that is the little cost every day versus the dopamine fueled cost of like, and I gave, right? So just a thought.
Great.
And then as far as using the space, there are a bunch of homeschool groups around here that a graduation or something like that. But more specifically for the arts, and I'm happy to help with this. There are quite a few universities around here that we're getting into recital time. And so this is a great acoustic space. You've got a great piano. I think reaching out to Wayne State, Oakland, all of those to say like we have a space that's available for recitals. And even if it's $200 or $400 that you're charging, that's a competitive cost and that's still $200 or $400, you know? So I would reach out to those university voice programs and instrumental programs and say, we've got a space for recitals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Greg and Ed.
One concern I have with using this space more with outside groups is some of the pews are in disrepair. So like the middle stanchion support is like gone on some of the pews. And so do we invest on repairing those, or if we want versatility, or is there conversations of like kind of replacing some of the pews with chairs like that can be movable and stuff like that? And maybe we got to move some of the pews that work. Like, so there's conversations regarding some of that to make our space more versatile, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that'll be some financial
investment
to make this space. Okay. So from a liability perspective, I don't want to have outsiders in our space and then get injured because there's a pew falling over or something like that too. So
absolutely.
I'm glad that that's being looked at.
That's
okay.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys have talked about a lot of like budget expenses that you can save on. Has there been conversation of a reorg or reconsideration of some of the other things like our staffing model or things like that? I hate to ask the question, but
No, you can ask that question. That sounds like an elder question. Has there been conversation around our staffing structure?
no. And so if there is feedback you want to give, come and talk separately.
Yeah, and please give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, there's conversation around who I would oversee, and there's been lots of movement, and we've done, limitation of hours or adjustment, blah, blah, blah. But at the level that you're asking, that's not a pastoral decision. So I wasn't trying to deflect. I was just trying to.
So I think about messaging, and I think about the small percentage of the congregation that's here right now. I think about the announcement that's made every week about how Genesis is 100% dependent on your contributions. And I think about benefits. I don't mean healthcare benefits. I mean that the benefits that this church is providing to the children, to the families, that might be emphasized more. I think about the conflict of interest position you're in when you stand up and you talk about the things that are happening as opposed to a layperson.
That's good. Thank you, Ed. Well, thank you for coming. If you have feedback, questions, blah, 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 you can certainly come to me. I'm presenting this because Jenna's on vacation. Bo's on bereavement. So yeah, you can come to me, but also you can always contact like elders directly and have like those conversations. I know that the youth want to come in here to rehearse their music, so I want to wrap this up here.
I think with Ed's messaging.
Yeah.
I do find that the way it was presented in some of the slides was a little confusing as far as like where we were in the budget. So all about clear and consistent communication. So even just a slide that says like our fiscal year is here. We're here, we're behind. This is our, just like even just numbers consistently presented to people, then it's not shock and awe, right? Then it's just like, here's where we at. But the specific wording of year to date and like it was just not completely clear to someone sitting in the pew. So maybe just looking at those slides for clarity of language. Yeah.
Good feedback.
Just reviewing the slides that go up that talk about budget for clarity of language for people who don't necessarily have the same vocab as people who are sitting in it all the time. Just like clear numbers labeled clearly. I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. God bless you. I feel loved by you and not judged. So that feels like a win to me. And I made it through. I didn't think I was going to because I preached today. So lovely. Love you all.